Let's bring in Doug Holtz-Eakin now to talk more about finances. He's a former CBO director. Doug, maybe a quick word on what Edward is talking about, and then we'll get into President Trump's plans for a potential second term in his agenda. This state aid fight is going to be interesting to watch the way it kind of plays out, because you're going to have the Democratic-run states really pushing hard and saying, hey, we need the money. You want us to open up the schools? And wonder if the Republicans will give in or dig in on that. What do you think?
I think they're pretty dug in, but in the end, there will be more money for states in whatever comes out of the Congress. There are some legitimate reasons. They bore the brunt of the response on the public health front and spent money on emergency responders and the like. There is a revenue hit, and Congress set up something called the Municipal Liquidity Facility at the Fed to allow states and localities to borrow against their lost revenue and pay it off over the next 4 years. That's a way to get a bridge through. And so given that there's a real need on one hand and another source of money on the other, it's hard to figure out what the right number is, and that's what the fight's going to be. I think we're definitely going to see that. I'd also add, Connell, that I think what's been overlooked in this debate over the layoffs at the state level and the localities is the $600 bonus to federal UI. That applies to layoffs from state and local governments as well. And in some places, 70% of state and local workers would make more on UI than they would on their job. And for that reason, mayors have a real incentive to just put them there. They're better off. The budget gets a little relief, and we can see a lot of that across the country.
There was clearly some talk about that in the Oval Office as well, about changing the incentives so that people are not incentivized to not work. And that will be a huge battle here over the next couple of weeks, as we talked to Bill McGurn about. I said coming into you, we wanted to talk about the potential second-term agenda on the economic side for the president. It's one of the criticisms of President Trump here over the last few weeks is that he has not effectively articulated what he would do if he won a second term. And for all the focus on his overall poll numbers going down or the struggles he's having in the polls, maybe the focus should be on the fact that he's actually started to struggle on the economic side, which he never had. That had been always the issue that he was way above water on, that he was beating Joe Biden on head-to-head. The latest Fox poll shows it's basically dead even. Biden was actually up a point on who would handle the economy better. So a long way of asking, has the president set out a second-term agenda that would be effective? And if not, where do you think his focus should be?
I think it's clear that the Trump campaign wants this to be a choice between the president and former Vice President Biden on the economy. That's how they want to frame the debate for the remainder of the year. And the president really has not put out a lot. He began to with the event on deregulation at the White House, pointing out the successes he had over his first term in deregulation. It was a core part of his agenda, promising to do more of the same in the future. So that's a start. But there's really not a fully articulated economic vision other than him pointing back and saying, look, we did it once, we can do it again. I will point out, at this point in the previous election, the bulk of the policy was being put out by House Republicans through then-Speaker Paul Ryan's A Better Way, a 6-point plan that covered tax reform and health care reform, national security, anti-poverty efforts, overall economic growth. And that's where the starting point for repeal and replace was when the president was finally elected. That was where the starting point for tax reform was when the president was finally elected. And we're not seeing that coming out of the Hill now. So the campaign's going to have to fill in that gap. Otherwise, they will not have enough to present the people with a real choice.
They have some time to do it, but not a lot of time to do it. So we'll watch that, of course, as we watch all these stories closely. Doug, thank you. Douglas Holtz-Eakin, formerly the director of the CBO.